The notification came at 11:37 on a Tuesday night. Not a call. Not even a voicemail. Just a text from my sister that read, "We need to talk, it's urgent." I remember staring at those 5 words for a long moment. The kind of moment where your stomach already knows what your brain hasn't caught up to yet. I set my phone face down on the nightstand and told myself I'd deal with it in the morning. I should have known then that nothing about what came next was going to be simple. My name is Claire. I'm 31 years old. I work as a pharmacist in Houston, Texas, and for most of my adult life, I have been what my family calls the responsible one, which is a kind way of saying I was the one who paid for things, the one who showed up, the one who said yes when everyone else said they couldn't. My sister's name is Danielle. She is 27, 4 years younger than me, and she has always been the one our parents looked at the way people look at a sunset, with this soft, helpless adoration that made everything she did seem beautiful even when it wasn't. When we were growing up, Danielle got the bedroom with the window seat. Danielle got the car on her 16th birthday. Danielle cried at the dinner table once about wanting to take ballet, and by the following Saturday she had lessons. I am not telling you this to make you feel sorry for me. I am telling you this so you understand the water I had been swimming in for so long that I'd stopped noticing it was wet. When Danielle got engaged to her boyfriend Marcus at 25, the whole family exploded with joy. He was a project manager at a construction firm. Steady job. Nice enough guy. My mother called me the same night the proposal happened and cried happy tears for 40 minutes straight. My father sent a group text, something he almost never does, with 3 exclamation points and a champagne emoji. Nobody asked me how I felt about it, but I was happy for her. I genuinely was. The trouble started about 3 weeks later when Danielle came to visit me at my apartment. She sat across from me at my kitchen table with her hands wrapped around a mug of coffee she wasn't really drinking, and she told me that she and Marcus had started looking at venues. She showed me pictures on her phone, a renovated barn outside of Austin, a rooftop space downtown, a vineyard 2 hours north of the city. And then, carefully, the way you approach something fragile, she told me what each one cost. The barn was $18,000. The rooftop was $22,000. The vineyard was $31,000 for a Saturday in October. I looked at her. She looked at me. Mom and Dad can do about $8,000, she said. Marcus's family is contributing $5,000, but we're still about 15 short of the vineyard. And I really, really want the vineyard, Claire. There it was. I want to be clear about something. Nobody held a gun to my head. Nobody forced me to open my laptop that night after she left and transfer money from my savings account. I did it because I loved my sister, because I had spent years quietly watching her get the things she wanted, and somewhere deep down, I think I believed that if I gave her this, if I made her dream wedding happen, it would mean something. That she would look at me differently, that our relationship would shift into something more equal. I transferred $15,000 into her account before I went to sleep that night. She sent back a single text. "You are literally the best sister in the world. I love you so much." I screenshotted it. I don't know why. Maybe some part of me already knew I would need it later. The next several months were busy. My job kept me occupied. Pharmaceutical work is not glamorous, but it is demanding, and I was also taking a continuing education course 2 evenings a week. Danielle and I texted regularly. She sent me fabric swatches, asked my opinion on centerpieces, shared the link to her registry. I felt included. I felt like we were doing this together. The first sign that something was wrong came in the form of a phone call from my mother about 6 months before the wedding. "I just wanted to make sure you had your dress sorted," she said. "My bridesmaid dress?" I asked. There was a pause that lasted just a half second too long. "Danielle updated the wedding party," my mother said carefully. "I think she was going to call you about it." She hadn't called me about it. I hung up with my mother and dialed my sister immediately. Danielle answered on the 3rd ring, her voice carrying that particular brightness that means she's been rehearsing what she's about to say. She explained it quickly, the words tumbling out like she was removing a bandage fast. The wedding party had gotten too large. She and Marcus had decided to scale it back to just their closest friends. Her 3 college roommates and Marcus's 2 sisters. It was nothing personal. She hoped I understood. I sat very still on my couch. "You're taking me out of the wedding party," I said. "I knew you'd make it weird," she said. And then, softer, "You're still coming. You're still my sister. It's just a title, Claire. Just a title. From the woman whose wedding I had paid for." I should have said something then. I know that now. But I was so shocked that the words didn't come, and by the time they might have, she had pivoted to talking about the seating chart and whether I thought the salmon or the chicken was a better entree option for guests. I went along with it. I told myself it didn't matter. 2 months before the wedding, I got an email. I almost missed it. It came in late on a Friday, the kind of email that gets buried under newsletters and work notifications. But the subject line stopped me cold. It was from a loan company. A follow-up email about an application submitted in my name. I read it 3 times. Someone had applied for a personal loan using my name, my date of birth, my social security number, and my home address. The application was for $20,000. It had been denied, thank God, because the address didn't match the billing address on a credit card attached to my name. Some small discrepancy that had tripped an automatic flag. My hands were shaking when I called the number on the email. The representative confirmed it. An application had been submitted 4 weeks earlier. They had flagged it as potentially fraudulent and denied it. I needed to file a report with the credit bureau and potentially with the police. I sat there for a long time after I hung up, thinking, trying to make the pieces fit in a way that didn't lead where they were leading. The wedding was in 60 days. The vineyard cost $31,000. My sister had asked me for 15. The family had contributed 13. That was 28,000. 3,000 short, and someone who knew my social security number had tried to borrow $20,000 in my name. I didn't confront her right away. I want to be honest about that. Part of me was afraid of what she would say. Part of me still wanted to be wrong. So instead, I did something quiet. I called the venue. I told the woman who answered that I was calling on behalf of the Harmon Pierce wedding, Danielle's last name, Marcus's last name, and that I wanted to confirm the final payment status on the booking. The woman checked, and then she told me the balance had been paid in full, 6 weeks ago. A wire transfer. $28,000 had been contributed by family. $20,000 had been attempted through the fraudulent loan. That was $48,000. The venue cost $31,000, which meant someone had an extra $17,000 that wasn't accounted for. I pulled up my bank account. I looked at the transfer I had made 8 months earlier. $15,000 gone in one click because I loved my sister and wanted to make her happy. I thought about the fabric swatches she'd texted me. The centerpiece debates. How included she had made me feel while she was using my name to apply for money I didn't know about. I went to my filing cabinet and I pulled out every financial document I had. I made copies. I saved the email from the loan company. I screenshotted my bank transfer records. I wrote everything down in a notebook with dates and amounts, and then I called a lawyer. The lawyer was a woman named Patricia who a colleague had recommended. I sat across from her in her downtown office on a Wednesday afternoon and I laid everything out. The loan application, the transfer, the venue cost, the discrepancy in the numbers. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she asked me 2 questions. Had I made the transfer voluntarily? Yes. Did I have any written agreement about what the money was for? No. She told me the transfer was going to be difficult to recover since I had given it freely with no contract. But the identity theft, the fraudulent loan application, was a different matter entirely. That was a crime. Whether I wanted to pursue it was my decision. I told her I needed a few days. I drove home thinking about my sister's face. The way she used to climb into my bed during thunderstorms when we were little. The way she called me from college her freshman year, crying because she was homesick, and we stayed on the phone until 2 in the morning. All of it was real. And all of it was sitting right next to this other thing that was also real. I called Danielle that night. She answered sounding relaxed and happy. She'd just gotten back from a dress fitting. She described how the alterations had come out, how perfectly the veil sat. She was in the middle of telling me about the rehearsal dinner venue when I interrupted her. Someone applied for a loan in my name, I said. $20,000, using my social security number. Silence. Claire, I want you to tell me it wasn't you. The silence that followed was 7 seconds long. I counted. It was a mistake, she finally said. It got denied anyway. Nothing happened. I felt the floor drop out from under me. You used my identity, I said, to borrow money. For your wedding. That I already gave you $15,000 for. It wasn't going to be a big deal. We were going to pay it back. Marcus was going to get his bonus in December, Danielle. And we just needed the bridge, okay? It was only temporary. You committed fraud, I said. Against me. She pivoted immediately. The relaxed voice was gone, replaced by something harder and more familiar. The tone she used when she wanted to make me feel like the problem. She said I was being dramatic. She said I had no idea how much stress she had been under. She said that I had always had more money than her and that it wasn't fair, that life wasn't fair, and that I was going to ruin her wedding by making this into something it didn't need to be. If you report this, she said, near the end, I will never forgive you. I sat with that for a long moment. Okay, I said. And I hung up. My mother called the next morning at 7:45. Then my father. Then Marcus, which I hadn't expected, and which told me that Danielle had called all of them the night before to get ahead of the story. My mother cried. She said I was breaking the family apart right before the happiest day of Danielle's life. My father was quieter, more controlled, but he said he was disappointed in me. He said that family takes care of family, and that I was choosing legality over love. I listened to all of it. I didn't argue. When they were done, I said the same thing to each of them. I love you. But what she did was wrong. Nobody wanted to hear that. My mother said, then maybe you shouldn't come to the wedding. I don't think she meant it as a final verdict. I think she meant it as a warning, a pressure point, the way parents sometimes say things to push you back into compliance. But I heard it, and I made a decision. Okay, I said. I won't come. I did not report Danielle to the police. I want to be clear about that. I spoke with Patricia again, and together we sent a formal letter to Danielle and Marcus. Not a lawsuit, not criminal charges, just a documented, legally structured demand letter outlining the $15,000 transfer and requesting acknowledgement of the fraudulent loan application. Something on record. Something that existed in writing. Marcus, to his credit, responded within a week. He called me directly. He was quiet and steady on the phone, and he said that he had not known about the loan application until after it was denied, and that he was sorry. He said they would pay me back in installments. He asked me not to report it. I appreciated that call more than I can say. I told him I wasn't planning to report it, that I just needed it acknowledged. We worked out an arrangement, $500 a month. The wedding happened on a Saturday in October. I did not go. I know it was beautiful because I saw the pictures on Instagram posted by people I had grown up with. The vineyard was everything Danielle had dreamed of. Golden light through the vines, long wooden tables covered in candles and flowers, the kind of photographs that make people feel something even when they don't know the people in them. I spent that Saturday at a friend's house. We watched movies and ordered Thai food, and she didn't ask me too many questions, and I was grateful for that. I won't pretend it didn't hurt. It did. It hurt in the specific way that only family can hurt you, that deep cellular kind of pain that doesn't come from a stranger but from someone who is supposed to know you and love you and protect you. But I didn't cry that night. I made the choice to be somewhere I was wanted, and that felt like something. 6 months passed. I heard from Danielle twice in that time, once through my mother, who relayed a message that Danielle was open to talking when I was ready to apologize, and once directly, a short text wishing me happy birthday in November. I responded to the birthday text. I did not apologize. Marcus made his payments on time every month. That surprised me. I had not expected him to follow through, and the fact that he did made me think differently about him. My parents and I reached an uncomfortable truce. We spoke at Christmas. The conversation was careful and surface level, the way conversations are when everyone has agreed not to touch the thing that's really in the room. My father hugged me when I left. My mother cried a little, though I'm still not sure what she was crying about. I thought about that sometimes. How grief can be for something you caused as much as something that happened to you. The call came on a Wednesday afternoon in March, about 8 months after the wedding. It was Danielle. Not a text this time. An actual call. I let it ring 4 times before I picked up. She had been crying before she even started speaking. Her voice was ragged and wet, and she skipped any kind of preamble entirely, which told me whatever was coming was bad. She and Marcus were in serious financial trouble. The construction firm he worked for had laid off a significant portion of its project management team in January. He had been searching for work for 2 months with no offers. They had burned through their savings faster than they expected. The rent on their apartment was past due. She'd had to move to part-time at her job because of a medical issue she hadn't told any of us about. They were underwater. I listened to all of it. When she finished, there was a long silence, and I understood that she was waiting for me to fill it the way I had always filled it. With yes, with of course, with how much do you need? I'm sorry you're going through this, I said. I genuinely am. Claire, I'm not in a position to help financially right now, I said. That was not entirely true. But it was the truest thing I knew how to say. I'm your sister, she said. I know. I made a mistake. I'm your sister, she said. I know I did. But we're family. I thought about how many times I had heard that word used to explain why I should give something up, accept something I shouldn't accept, stay quiet about something that deserved to be spoken aloud. Family. Like it was both a reason and a conclusion. Being family doesn't mean I have to keep absorbing the cost of your decisions, I said. I love you, but I can't be your financial backup plan anymore. That's not a relationship. That's just a resource. She cried harder. She said things that were unkind. She said I had never truly supported her, that I had always been jealous, that my so-called loan to her was nothing compared to everything she had done for me over the years, though she didn't specify what those things were because she couldn't, because there weren't many. I let her say all of it. When she was done, I said, I hope things get better for you. I really do, and I meant it. I referred Danielle to a non-profit credit counseling organization that I had researched after our first falling out. I texted her the phone number and the website. She didn't respond. My mother called 3 days later. She said I was being cold and that families should never turn each other away in a time of need. I gave her a resource, I said. I gave her a number to call. That's more than she gave me. My mother went quiet. She used my social security number, I said. She took me out of her wedding after I paid for it, and then she told me not to come. I'm still here. I still answered the phone, but I am not going to give money I worked for to someone who has demonstrated that she will use me and then remove me when it's convenient. My mother said nothing for a moment. And then, quietly, she said, I didn't know about the loan. I know you didn't, I said. I'm sorry, she said. I think we handled things badly. I hadn't expected that. I had to sit with it for a moment before I could respond. Thank you for saying that, I said. That means a lot. Things are not fixed. I want to be honest about that too. My family is not healed. My relationship with Danielle is somewhere between cold and non-existent. She and Marcus are working with a credit counselor. My mother told me that a few weeks ago, so at least she used the number. Marcus still makes his payment on time every month. We have never spoken about any of it directly, and I don't expect we will. What I have instead is this. I go to work. I come home to an apartment that is quiet and mine. I go to dinner with friends who know the full story and love me anyway. I take long walks in the early evening when Houston cools down in the fall and the light comes through the trees in long gold slants, and something in me recognizes that as beautiful. I do not have a restored relationship with my sister. I do not have a restored relationship with my sister. I do not have a Hollywood ending. What I have is the knowledge that I told the truth, that I protected myself, that I stopped saying yes when yes was costing me everything. I think about that text I screenshotted 8 months before the wedding. You are literally the best sister in the world. I love you so much. I still have it. I don't look at it to feel sad about it. I look at it sometimes to remember that I was generous, that I tried, that whatever happened after, that was real. The wanting to give was always mine. That part of me is still intact. I just know now who deserves it. There's something I've learned about generosity, the real kind, not the kind that expects applause. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't keep score out loud, but it does remember, and when it gets used instead of appreciated, something shifts inside you that can't fully shift back. not because you become bitter, but because you become clearer. I used to think that giving was the safest thing I could do in my family. That if I kept showing up, kept filling the gaps, kept saying yes, it would eventually add up to something. Belonging, maybe. Or at least recognition. What I didn't understand then is that when people are accustomed to receiving without reciprocating, generosity stops reading like love to them. It starts reading like a function, like a tap they can turn on when they need it. That's what I became to my sister. Not a person she was in relationship with, a resource she managed. The choices I made weren't random and neither were hers. I gave without a contract because I trusted her. She used my name on a loan application because she had learned over years that there were no real consequences for taking from me. Every time I had absorbed the slight or swallowed my own needs to make room for hers, I was teaching her something without meaning to. I was teaching her that I would hold still. When I finally didn't hold still, when I said no, clearly and without apology, she called it cruelty. My family called it coldness. But I think what they were actually reacting to was the disruption of a pattern they had all benefited from in different ways for a long time. That's the thing about cause and effect that nobody warns you about. It's not always dramatic. It's not always a single moment you can point to. Most of the time, it's accumulation. Small decisions, repeated over years, building a structure that eventually becomes too heavy to stand in. My yes had weight. My silence had weight. And when I finally changed the answer, the whole structure had to reorganize itself. The hardest part wasn't saying no to my sister when she called in March. The hardest part was saying it knowing she might never understand why. Knowing that in her version of the story, I am the one who failed her. That's a grief I've had to make room for. The grief of being misread by someone you love. But here's what I keep coming back to. Integrity isn't something you perform for an audience. It's something you practice in the moments when nobody is watching, and the easier path is right there, available, familiar. I could have written the check. I could have smoothed it over. I could have kept the peace at the cost of my own dignity, the way I had done so many times before. I didn't, and I won't. What I want, if you take anything from Claire's story, is this. Your willingness to give is not a flaw. It is one of the most human things about you. But it belongs to people who can hold it carefully, not people who will fold it up and use it as leverage the moment it becomes convenient. Knowing the difference between those two kinds of people is not cynicism, it is wisdom. And wisdom, unlike money, is something nobody can take from you without your permission.